everyone, and welcome back to our homeroom. I'm excited for these next couple episodes because I think they're going to clarify a few old, lingering parenting myths that you are probably ready to let go of as well, but weren't sure whether they were something you should think and believe or not. So I am going to dispel a few. I'm going to do 3 this episode and 3 the next episode. The 3 today I'm diving into all have to do with authoritarianism. And, I know most of us know we're moving away from authoritarianism, but we really need some help because there's some lingering beliefs that seem right. They seem like things we should be thinking or believing or ideas that we should be, following through with our kids. And so I'm going to go over 3 really popular ones today, talk to you about why they're actually not healthy and what you need to be thinking instead. So when it comes to authoritarianism, I know that most of us are moving away from that. We know that authoritarianism is not the best way to manage human people. Unfortunately, we are seeing that play out on the big screen right now in the world. But even in our own families, we know that when we use things like punishment or humiliation or micromanaging or fear as a way to control, right? When we're that boss, when we're stepping in and bossing and, using shame and punishment and fear, those things don't work. They may appear to work short term, obviously, because nobody wants to be shamed and humiliated and punished. But we know that in the long term, it just promotes disconnection with our kids. And again, that relationship with our kids is the number one priority because they are looking for belonging more than they are looking for anything else. So all those other things in the world that we do, while important, providing belonging through our relationship with our kids is the most important thing we can do. When that belonging is severed, right? When we have a disconnected relationship with them through the use of punishment or, bossing or taking away privileges and hurting in some way, when we disconnect from them that way, yeah, they might appear to do what you want them to do in the moment, but you're just going to have the results of a disconnected relationship. And that's things like rebellion, manipulation, resentment. They might even retaliate. They may grow up and want nothing to do with you anymore. So we really want to get away from authoritarianism. So we know that, but there are still some beliefs lingering around that seem like they might be healthy, but maybe not. So let's go into that a little bit more about how we can, instead of being bosses, the way authoritarianism promotes, we want to be just caring, boundaried leaders. We want to step into that leadership position because then when we're the leader and we're pulling our children in as accepted parts of the family, we're valuing them, we're appreciating them, we're also holding kind boundaries, but they feel then part of the family. And of course they want to improve their behavior then they do want to do the best they can do for you because they respect you. They adore you. They think you're the best because you think they're the best. So the more we can promote that really good relationship as our number one, then we lead from that, then you're going to get good behavior and you're also going to enjoy your relationship with your kids, which, that's a pretty good benefit. So before we dive in, don't forget there's a reference sheet below that you can print out if you want to follow along visually. And if you're listening on Apple, you can also be watching me on YouTube. That's where I've got slides up, so that kind of helps for some of you who like to follow along visually. All right, so let's get into busting popular parenting myths, part 1. So as I was saying, authoritarianism, yes, it harms our kids and it harms parents because it creates more misbehavior. It disconnects that relationship and it just is absolutely no fun. Like ruling from an authoritarian mindset, it's no fun to micromanage our kids. It's not fun to boss. It's not fun to have to yell. And I mean, authoritarianism carries such a negative viewpoint. The whole time, the boss is just looking for something that someone's doing wrong, right? So it's just not a fun way to lead our families. And I don't know about you, but I only have a few short years on this planet. Even shorter years with my children in the home, I really want to make those as fun as possible. I mean, if I live to be 80 years old, I've only got 18, so only maybe a quarter of my life is spent with my kids at home with me. If I'm lucky, I might get a few more after that. So don't I want to enjoy those few short years? So I do. I have made that a mission from the very beginning, even as a teacher. I want to enjoy my kids. I want to have fun being a teacher. Same with being a parent. I want to enjoy my son. I want to have fun with him. So letting go of these authoritarian myths will really help you get to the point where you're enjoying your kids a little bit more. So let's dive into myth 1. My kids misbehave because they are bad. This one is really ingrained in our society, but I really want to give you an analogy today to maybe hopefully make you see this a little bit different. So, when we first have our babies and they're just the sweetest, little, cutest, innocent little babies, and they're small and they're tiny and they're beautiful and they're angelic and they cry a lot. But we don't look at that crying as misbehavior. We know that the only reason that that crying is happening is because they need to be fed, or they need a diaper change, or they need to sleep, right? Those needs are really clear cut when babies are small. So it's easy for us to know, oh, there's crying. There must be some need that they are missing that I need to provide. And if I provide that, then the crying will stop, right? But then as soon as our children age and become toddlers, and then that quote, crying becomes saying, no, I don't want to get in the car seat. Then all of a sudden, that negative behavior, we are now calling them bad. We are saying that our children are bad for saying no, rather than looking at the saying no as the more grown-up version of crying. And that's all it is. So when our children misbehave, any type of misbehavior, you have to remember it is just like an infant crying for food or sleep or, mom to hold them or whatever that is. That's all that's happening. So misbehavior is really just a healthy part of growing. Your children should be misbehaving. They're pushing, they're trying to get their needs met. And the only way they can do that is through you. So when we have this myth that the only reason our children are misbehaving is because they are bad, then it turns our attention towards just controlling that behavior, that bad behavior, making the bad behavior stop, rather than what is my responsibility as the parent to make sure I'm providing their need so that they feel better and then they act better. So in the baby crying example, imagine the baby crying and us just figuring out a way to silence the cries without changing the diaper or giving them sleep or giving them food, but just making it so we can't hear the cries. That's what we're doing when we're punishing misbehavior. We're looking at the behavior as it just needs to stop, rather than looking at what's causing that misbehavior to begin with. So, a truth to adopt instead is that misbehavior only comes from negative feelings, which come from unmet needs. So, in order to actually address that misbehavior, you want to address that missing need. Because then once they have their need met, whatever that need may be, then they're going to feel better. And once they're feeling better, they're going to have better behavior. So we have to remember that if we're seeing misbehavior from our children, it is actually not to control their behavior, but to look at ourselves and think, as a parent, what missing need can I make sure that they have met so that their misbehavior goes away? Then everybody's feeling better, behavior is better, and then bonus, again, you're enjoying parenting because all the needs are met. Just like when your baby is sleeping peacefully and fed and they're happy and they're not crying and they're playing and they're giggling and they're doing all those things. Yes, we can do the same thing by just addressing those missing needs for other misbehaviors. So myth number 2. I am not here to be my kid's friend. I hear this a lot. This one is still very, very pervasive. And the reason it is a problematic mindset to have is that it's immediately disconnecting. right? I'm not here to be their friend. It's already like, I'm not here to help them. I'm not here to be supportive. I'm not here to be kind. They're over there, I'm over here. So it's immediately disconnecting. And that's a big problem because, again, belonging is the most important need of all because our brains are wired to think that belonging equals survival. Because the more I belong, the more I have someone that is accepting me and loving me, and I'm part of a group, the more my needs will be met, which means the more I will survive. So it is so, so important we provide belonging for our children. So, a truth to adopt instead: no, you're not peers. Correct. So that is the only part of that is correct. No, you are not peers with your child. However, you absolutely should be a friendly, loving, supportive, but boundaried leader. So, yes, you want your children to feel accepted. You want them to feel loved. You want them to feel respected by you, as a friend would be, right? You want to be their biggest cheerleader. You are here to love them and support them and root them on as a friend does. So, yes, you might be from a leadership position in that sometimes you're going to have boundaries with them. Sometimes you're going to have to say no to them. You may have to know what's in the best interest of your family. So you have to guide them away from unhealthy habits. And you are leading because you have been a human longer than them. So there are things that you know that they don't know, which is why you're not in a peer relationship with them. But as far as the friendliness, absolutely. You want to foster a really good, loving, kind, supportive relationship with your kids because that's what's going to carry them into the future and find success. When they have someone behind them that's rooting them on, believes in them, and thinks the world of them, that's when they can reach for all of those heights. They can push themselves and really succeed to the best of their ability. So it's just really important. Also, the more you have that really good relationship with them, the less they're going to need to rebel. Think of your best friends. Very often, if they're really, really good, supportive, kind friends, you're not going to fight with them. You're not going to be rude to them. You're not going to disrespect them. So you'll also get less misbehavior. And then the less misbehavior we have, again, the more we're all enjoying family life a lot more. All right, let's go on to myth 3, which is another really common one. My kids should listen to me. I know what's best for them. All right, so why is that problematic? Our children do have their own inner compass. When we consistently override their opinions, their ideas, and their choices, it makes them question themselves even into adulthood, which becomes self-doubt. And I know for myself, for instance, I struggled a lot with self-doubt, and it makes us a lot more hesitant to try new things and to push ourselves into being successful because we doubt that we're right. We think we're probably wrong. We must not know. It makes us question ourselves, which really can decay our confidence. So also it's also problematic because I will tell you, as a parent and as a teacher I'd say I've coached and taught probably over 1,500 kids over these last 25 years. And I will tell you, when you ask for their opinions and you start listening and getting their ideas, it is amazing what these kids know and what they share and the wisdom that they hold. So you're really missing out on some really, really great ideas and opinions when you actually get them from, you take the time to ask them their opinions and ideas. Let them be involved, give them choices, give them voice, let them have opinions and things, and allow those mistakes to happen when they make the wrong choices, because they will. And as long as that choice is not dangerous in some way to the health and safety of themselves or someone else, let them try something wrong. And then be there on the side and tell them it's okay. Next time you'll know to make the better choice. It's okay. Let them figure out for themselves what works best. Nobody ever learns something by someone telling them in advance how bad it's going to go, how wrong that choice is. They might listen to you briefly, but eventually, usually what happens is they end up trying it on their own anyway. We want our children to grow up having practiced in a safe home with a supportive and loving parent who's okay with mistakes. We want them to be able to practice making mistakes, messing up, trying things. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try something else. You want to give them that chance. So when you go into this mindset that I know what's best for them and they need to listen to me, it shuts down all that ability for them to be able to try to build their own perseverance. So not only is that harmful for their future, it really makes it less enjoyable, because I will tell you, it's really fun to let our kids try things and figure out for themselves what they like and what they don't like, and who they want to be and who they don't want to be. Let them try them out. As long as it's not hurting anyone, then it's healthy, it's good, and it's a lot more enjoyable to see our kids trying all that stuff out. So these myths, as much as they have been floating around out in the world for literally centuries, decades, whatever, they've been around for a really long time. It's time to let those go. We want to build a nice, loving, secure relationship with our children, because the more we build that really good relationship by being supportive, being that good, sturdy leader that holds kind boundaries, that lets them explore, lets them figure things out on their own, that uses healthy consequences and limits without punishing or shaming. When we do all of those things, we are giving them so much of a better chance of success in the future. And we are allowing our family life to really be enjoyable, both for the kids and for us. So the more we can let go of these myths, the better it is for everyone. And as always, I have some questions here that will help you reflect on some of the things we talked about, and hopefully you can apply those with your own family and move away from some of those myths we discussed today. So the first question is, what are some ways that you can focus more on meeting your child's needs instead of trying to control their behavior? So if we're trying to get away from this idea that our kids misbehave just because they're bad, that means I need to move into understanding my kids' needs and making sure that I'm providing strategies to meet those needs. If you aren't sure, then please go back to my first 4 episodes. Actually, episodes 3 and 4 specifically will explain to you my method, my framework for understanding what needs children need in our relationship with them. And then episode 4 goes into how to manage the misbehavior. So I actually have which misbehaviors line up with which missing needs. So it's almost like a cheat sheet for you. So, because it can be overwhelming. Our kids have lots and lots of needs. So how do you know which need they're missing? Like, for instance, we know when the baby is crying that it needs probably either food or a diaper change or a nap or to be held. Like, that's pretty clear cut. But as our kids get older, there's lots and lots of needs. But I have actually sat down, used all the research and experience from the last 20 some years, and I have come up with the 6 most essential needs that our children have and what misbehavior shows up when those needs are not being met. So if you're not sure, go back into episode 3 and episode 4 of the podcast where I go over those needs. Okay, number 2, how can you provide healthy boundaries in a way that is still friendly, respectful, and kind, so you are providing that essential need of belonging? So boundaries are important. You have to enforce them. You have to have consequences sometimes, because our children are going to push limits. Our children are going to break rules, but there is absolutely no reason to enforce boundaries in a harsh or unkind way. We can still prioritize a friendly relationship and have boundaries and say no and keep our kids on the right path. So if you're not sure how to handle that, if you've never really learned how to do effective consequences to make sure they are not punishments, I have put together several episodes, but specifically 10, 11, and 12. If you go back to those, I go over why it's important to have boundaries, how to be a leader, not a boss and not a pushover, and how to kind of maintain that friendly relationship while also holding boundaries. So that's the episodes 10, 11, and 12. There's also a follow-up that I just did in episode, 15, where I go over the examples of consequences versus punishment. So there's a lot of content that I have provided you for how to have healthy boundaries, but still being that friendly, supportive leader with your children. So you keep giving them that really important need of belonging. All right. And then number 3, what are some ways you can let go a bit more, give them some more voice and choice in their lives while also being okay when they make mistakes? You know, the more you can get them involved in the family, the more they feel like an integral part, the more they're going to feel capable. They're going to feel confident in themselves because they've given an opinion and the family is doing that. And it's like, wow, like I have some voice here. I have some choice. Like my opinions matter and they mean something to my family. And that really makes them feel valued. And then it really builds up that good mutual respect, but it also gives them, your power seeking kids, it gives them some power and control over their lives. For our avoidance seeking kids, it can really let them have be encouraged because you're being that cheerleader on the side. You're letting them make mistakes. You're telling them that's okay. And that can really help our kids who are avoiding things because they're worried about mistakes. So while I don't have a specific episode for that, I do have, I believe it's episode 5 about why children can be lazy, quote unquote, and unmotivated. And it does a little bit go into how to give our children voice and choice, how to give them power, and how to be okay with mistakes and be their biggest cheerleader. So there is a little bit of that in episode 5. So you can find some tips there. But hopefully, these have been convincing arguments for you as to why it is important we let go of these myths and move away from those so that we can really build up that good relationship and enjoy our life with our kids a lot more for these few short little 18 years we have with them. That is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. If you are interested in more free content, I've got a lot out there for you. So please make sure to follow or subscribe. I'm on Apple. I'm also on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I also have some videos there for you. Also on my website, if you go, so the links below have links to all of these things. If you're interested in getting my newsletter, I also share some tips every month. I only send out 1 or 2 newsletters a month. So you also get some articles there and you find out about any specials or anything that I'm running with my coaching business. Because remember, I can help you. So if you're listening to these and you're like, this all sounds great, but I don't know how to do this with my own kids, that's where I can step in. So I work with parents and I work with students. I can do in person in the Orlando area, but I also work virtually. So if you feel like you just really are struggling and would like some help, please reach out to me. You can email me, but you can also check again those links below to my website where you can book a free phone consultation. So you can brainstorm with me, find out if my services are what your family needs, and we can come up with solutions together. So please reach out. I love to hear from parents, even if it's just a question or a comment about the podcast. Always feel free to reach out. And you can email me, kristentame@gmail.com. And I will see you in 2 weeks for part 2, where I will be going over some permissive parenting myths instead. All right, have a great 2 weeks. See you soon.